I kid you not, this past Friday. So, you hear, like, you just mentioned, like, millennials, whatever. You hear a bunch of stuff, like different
Yeah.
generations and their attitude about work.
It's hard for me to judge it like that largely. I don't know all the millennials.
Right. But
I
no,
don't
but I
know.
hear what you're saying. Generally speaking, the world is moving into a new world. I mean, there's what's it called? The great big, the great big.
Mine's called the Great Big Depression.
No, not
It's
the
just
depression.
my world.
It's like the great resignation movement,
Oh,
something
right,
like that.
the Great Resignation.
Great
Correct.
resignation, exactly. Like, employees jumping ship. But I actually, this past Friday, met young 20s kid who lives with his mom, which I have no problem with. I lived with my mom in my life. And we got talking about work. I said, hey, do you work? What do you do? And he looks at me and he goes, oh, no, I'm against all that.
Oh.
I'm against work. I don't do work. That's
And
what he said. 20-something, lives with his mom. I said, what do you do all day long? He said, just have fun. Just have fun. So here's what caught me off guard. Here's my problem with it. Here's my problem with it. I don't have a problem if someone doesn't have a job. I don't work. I'm looking.
Okay.
Or I don't work, and that's about that. But this attitude of, oh, no, I'm against it. I've tried it once, and I don't like it. That's scary.
Yeah.
That is scary. Because guess who's paying for his lunch? You are.
Yep.
You're paying for his lunch. That is scary.
I think that
It's that attitude.
there are, part of it is like, okay, I'm a big fan of RuPaul. Do you know who RuPaul is?
No.
Well, she and he are
She and he together?
yeah, RuPaul actually is a drag queen who goes by RuPaul in drag and out of drag.
Oh, it's a drag queen who's a she and he. Gotcha. Okay.
Correct. And there's a certain persona or element of teaching that's done while he's in drag and when he's not in drag. So I like to say he and she. But he says that you can't teach irony to people.
What do you mean?
You can't teach somebody what's funny.
Right.
And there are certain people that are going to get it, and there's certain people that are not going to get it.
Right.
And I have a pretty twisted view of humor in general. And I think it just sheds light on the fact that, like, there are certain people in this world who are, if he wants to work, he doesn't want to work, is whatever is fine. Do whatever you want. However, be a person that is able to acknowledge the why, or I don't work because of capitalism. It really affects me. That's a more response.
Oh yeah,
that's
he's
a
just
more
not
like,
into it. He's against it.
That's more of a, like, there has to be something more than only seeing that the world until your skin stops.
Yes.
Like, there has to be more, but you can't teach that to people. Either they have to learn themselves or they're never going to learn.
Is that a big? I don't know if you're an employer and I'm not, so maybe you've looked into this more than I have. But is that a big reason where there's this great is it capitalism that causes people to not be into working? Is that one of the things?
I think that there is a large shift from capitalism in general with younger generations. There is proven, I guess some people would say proven, there are other governments that have proven that capitalism may not be the only way that some people are able to be successful, because our measurement of successful has changed. Our measurement of successful is now a certain element of happiness or a certain element of feeling of value. And that was not the case in the 1950s when we really exploded, or in the at the turn of the century with the Industrial Revolution. It just wasn't about that. It was about production and proving your worth through work, I guess.
How much money you have.
Yeah.
And today, kids are about... So it's like all back to basics. How happy am I?
Right.
Interesting.
But for me, it's difficult for me to really understand this way of thinking. Like they say, Denmark or Sweden, they're all the happiest people. And that's great. They grew up in a world that was more similar to how it is for them now, in terms of like they were taught these ideas from a young age, whereas we weren't. I was not taught, you should only be happy in life. I was taught that you have to work hard in order to get somewhere. And I feel like, I guess it's just difficult for me to put myself in that place where it's like, yes, I do want the government to provide a majority of services for me. I've seen our government, in my opinion, really work in a way that seems inefficient to me, but maybe that's just my mentality of like efficiency is better. Right. But I've seen them work very inefficiently, and I could only imagine if my healthcare were run by the same people that run like the DMV. I think we just got appointments, 5 years ago or 10 years ago at the DMV, right. And like that's absurd to me. I don't want that experience for my healthcare. I don't want that experience for schooling even. I mean, schooling in California is Los Angeles is pretty despicable. And I'm not saying I know how to fix it either, but I just don't want to give the government more money to do things that I don't think that they're very good at.
So you're not against what is being done with money, but you're against who's doing it, perhaps the government.
Yeah. And also the idea that in more socialistic societies, people seem to be happier. That's like I guess that's my interpretation of other people's governments, is that far left people think that social support or social programs are very important and can make our society work better. And I have no idea. All I know is that the social programs that we do have don't work. So that's kind of where my standing is. Or maybe they do work and I just don't know enough about it. And it's just the country's just too big for anyone to ever fully understand what someone else is going through or what's working for.
But when you hear that there's a kid out there, and he's probably not the only one, and he goes, I hate working. I've tried it once. I don't want anyone telling me what to do. I don't like it. And you're paying for his lunch. Where does that land with you? As someone who employs a bunch of people.
Who works so hard.
Who works hard. Like you almost don't have a personal life because of how hard you work. And here's a kid who says, I'm not into it. I just want to live with my mom and have fun all day long and receive grants from the government, which he does, and I verified. Where does that land with you?
I think in the past it probably would have made me pissed. I think that now I have somewhat settled in terms of my opinion about what can be done and what can't. I truthfully think that he's going to learn his lesson sooner or later, and it's certainly not my place to teach him it. However, for his sake, I wish that he found something that he likes to do.
Yeah.
Because, having fun all day, it's impossible to have fun all day. That's the other thing. This barometer of happy countries, I don't know what the fuck that means.
America has to be one of the least happiest country in the world. People are empty.
Of course, but I feel like that's empty.
What do you mean that's empty?
Even though I'm not necessarily quote unquote happy, I am way better off than someone who doesn't find enjoyment in anything other than staying inside and sitting at their mother's basement.
Yeah, but what if that makes them happy?
I don't think it does.
How do you know? I'll give you an example. You know the people who love hiking?
Well, speak to any gay man who wants to show off his body.
Okay, there you go. Love hiking. Okay, so I'll give you an example. This is exactly how I feel about that. People who love hiking, like I go hiking all day, like who wants to go on a hike? Let's climb a mountain. I literally sit there and I go, I don't think you're having fun. There's no way that's fun. But I also know that I'm not them, and they're into what they're into, and I'm into what I'm into. So how do you know that the kid in the basement is not having a ball by the fact that
he's
they're
probably
just
masturbating all day?
not having a ball.
He's probably having a great time.
You never know.
How old is this boy?
20-something.
20-something.
It's this new generation. Not everyone are that way, but we're definitely, I hear what you're saying. You touched on something. You said, I think you're very, very right, that all generations always aimed to be successful. The only thing that has ever changed and is changing is how do we define success?
Correct.
And is it money? Is it happiness? Is it fulfillment? Is it not feeling like shit? How do I define being successful?
Is it changing the world that you live in?
Exactly.
Yeah.